I don't give a fuck if you've got the best mindset in the world if you're not applying it to something worthy. Whether that's being the best parent, the best coach, the best business owner, like the best athlete that you can be, it kind of means fuck all if you're just sat in a cave because you're not testing it.
Welcome back to the Freedom Project podcast. Thank you for putting up with the 2-week absence of podcasts. Honestly, things have been a little crazy since I got back from Pakistan. Fair to say, life is full steam ahead right now. My wife is 17 weeks pregnant. We're due to move into our first house purchase in 6 days' time now. And during all of that, I went into an uncontactable region of the world and experienced the most incredible time. So I said in a podcast a few months back that at some point you just have to say fuck it and book the trip. And I still 100% stand by that. The months between then and now have been absolutely crazy, jam-packed, but they've been truly committed, like 100%. They've been intentional and not a single day has been wasted. And that's the value of booking the trip. I've been forced to grow more than I ever expected in a completely different direction from what was normal before then and from what I expected too. I've learned so much more than I bargained for, and I want to pass on as much of that to you as humanly possible. So in light of that, I am giving you access to a training that I put together for my clients in the Adventurepreneur Collective. It's called 7 Lessons from 6,000 Meters, a guide to personal development. It's a summary of the most essential lessons that I learned while ski mountaineering in the Karakoram Mountains. Now, because I want the privacy of the members of the collective to be valued, there are some pieces that are edited out, so questions, some feedback. But what we've done is we've snipped the questions and kept as much in there as humanly possible, so the answers are still there. So there may be pieces that are kind of non sequiturs. That being said, you guys are all very intelligent people and you'll be able to piece together what is missing. So in a few moments, here are 7 lessons from 6,000 meters. As an aside, it is now June 4th when I'm recording this, and that means there are spaces open in my coaching programs. I take on 4 people per month. I'm not going to give you a huge pitch, but if you want to live a more intentional life, if you want to truly commit to being the best version of yourself and become who you're supposed to be, then new client spaces are available. Like I said, 4 per month. And the only way to find out more information is to shoot me a DM on Instagram. So find me, Tom Foxley, on Instagram. But now are 7 lessons from 6,000 meters.
Learnings from Pakistan. I wanted to give this a week before I pass this on to you guys because there was so much. There's so much. And that was kind of the first thing that I figured out there. One of the functions of our mind is to reduce complexity. So you can think about all this unknown in front of you. Your mind's purpose, one of them, is to reduce that and to make it simple and make it clear. But one of the things that happens is that you go about reducing the unknown in your life and it creates the same day in, day out. You need novelty to grow and you need novelty to engage you. How much of your life is routine and rote and predictable and same the day after day? There's a reason why you guys are in here, and one of the things that pulls you together is your love of adventure. Like I keep on saying, it's like you want the unknown. Whatever adventure means for you, you want some of the unknown. We need that. You crave it. You stagnate if you just stay in the known the whole time. There's growth that has to happen, and the longer you stay in the known, the more terrifying the unknown feels. We need to regularly go out and engage. So there's an analogy that comes to mind, which is within the military. It's like if you look at conflicts like Afghanistan, what they did is like they would set up these FOBs, forward operating bases, and like in the heart of enemy terrain. And what you do is they kind of realized that they couldn't just stay in there the whole time because they get shelled and like all that kind of stuff. But you had to go out and experience the unknown. You had to go into that threat over and over and over again. And by doing that, you create way more kind of experience for yourself. And the term that came up in Pakistan for me was like experiential density. There's so much that happens in one day when you're doing something like that, whatever this thing is for you, whether that is like truly pursuing your business and going after it, or whether it's going to Pakistan and ski touring, or whether like whatever it is for you, or moving across the world, like that place where experiential density is where you learn quickest. And so much of our lives are reduced in complexity. So think about how much, like, what's the optimal balance? You want to be straddling that border between the known and the unknown, like dancing on that line between order and chaos. That's what we really want to be doing. And sorry, let me get rid of that notification. And that's what's so like, that's the balance that we need to strive for. Like, immerse yourself in experiential density. So how can you learn? How can you grow? That's thing number one. The second thing, this came up at like I had a lot of dark moments in this, like difficult moments, tough moments, things where I just felt completely insufficient. And there were times like, think about how we construct identity as well. Like we construct these identities like I'm the mountaineer guy. I'm the guy that like you guys probably know is like the person that goes off to Pakistan and like does these kind of things. That's how I like to view myself as well. So when I was really lagging behind everyone and like really struggling to pull my weight and could not adapt to the altitude as quickly as everyone else, these beliefs came up and they kind of pulled themselves forwards, and they were really painful and uncomfortable, and they had this sense of inadequacy. And I had this realization whilst I was lying in my tent like that evening, and luckily I managed to kind of find a few methods to cope in that situation and actually get myself together. But the thing that came up is that the beliefs that you most need to change, they're not like daisies on the surface of a meadow ready for you to go, all right, I'm going to pluck that off. I'm just going to, they're surface level, they're easy to get. There's very little resistance with them. Maybe that's where you start in this. They're more like the molten core of the earth, the thing actually creating your world. And they're dangerous and they're dark and they're kind of rooted into the kind of the core of the earth. They're so deeply embedded in you that they shape your world. And they're way more painful to get at. But we've got to go through these kind of experiential density periods, these escapades into the unknown, in order to find them. And when you get them, or when you see them, you've got that choice. Then, that's what you need. You need to make the unconscious conscious. That's what Carl Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will dictate your life, and you'll call it fate. You do that by going into the unknown. And when you get there, they're going to feel dark and heavy, and they're going to feel difficult. You're going to struggle with them. So that's thing number two. Like, these beliefs aren't surface level. They are difficult to find, and they are painful. Linked to all of this is the third point. Mindset growth, personal development, however you want to frame it, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen without action. You need challenge. You need something to pit this this growth against. And like, I wrote this kind of note here, and I think it does explain it. It's probably a bit more confrontational than I wanted it to be, but essentially it's like, I don't give a fuck if you've got the best mindset in the world if you're not applying it to something worthy, whether that's being the best parent, the best coach, the best business owner, like the best athlete that you can be. It kind of means fuck all if you're just sat in a cave, because you're not testing it. There's that phrase, if you think you're enlightened, go and spend 5 minutes with your family. And I love that, because A, we can see it, and you can see how like we regress when we spend the time with our family. But B, it's like, we've got to go and do stuff with this. We've got to take action. And the thing that I'm trying to get at for you guys here is like, there's the unknown for you. There's something that is like represented that you like you're waiting to get at, and that's what all your growth is to do. And sure, there's times where you have to be like in the base camp prepping yourself, but there's also times where you have to fucking get after it. And that's where you learn. That's where you adapt. There's real risk there. There's real danger there. And like, look at each of you here. I think you're all doing that. There's either something that's like, it's there ready to go that requires like a doubling down and a commitment, or there's something that's like you're already doing, and there's something that's on the threshold. So like the thing that's required here is a commitment to that, not half-assing it. And that kind of, I'm going for it. Like I'm making this count. I'm not like half-assing my life. I'm making this count for me. Nietzsche talked about this life of eternal recurrence, where he basically said like you want to live your life in a way that if you had to live it for eternity, each day would be worthwhile, and you'd be like, okay, fucking yes, this is a worthwhile day. So we can think about that, and that comes through action. That's very outcome focused. So yes, I think we would like to get to that point, but I think it's more of like, are you trending towards that? Like think about a piece of music. Like the whole point of it isn't to just resolve as quickly as possible and get to that. It's to take you on a journey to get that. Like otherwise the best composer or the best musician in the world would be the shortest song. And that's not what it is. It's that journey to get there. It's leading you somewhere. That's the symphony. That's the music that we're looking at. So like the day by day thing is more of like, did this day count? Was this a worthwhile investment of my energy, or did I fuck it up? Like, what decisions did you make? Did you make today count? And like, there's going to be days where your business takes a knock, and you take like maybe in terms of building your business, it's 25% like shutdown, but that's still progression towards who you want to be. But I think it's more of like was the energetic state of today, was that who I want to be? Was that a good use of today? Did I make the decisions that I wanted to and that were right for me? Did I like feed the wolf of good, or did I feed the wolf of bad? You'll bring up a beautiful point here. I recently commented and got a little bit of shit on it from a few people on one of Chris Williamson's posts about stoicism. And I basically said, like, I've made a conscious decision to give up on a stoic mentality, because I think there's like this negating of emotion. Like, and what I mean by that is like a shutting down. If you feel negative emotion or even highs, it's like, stop, don't get carried away. Then there's utility in that, but then it's like almost shut it down, which I think comes with it, a rejection of emotional state. So I think Nietzsche had this, that he wrote a huge criticism on stoicism, and I think he had this absolutely right. Like the beauty is in those moments of struggle. You developed, like, we evolved emotions for a reason. They're telling you something. So like these struggles are there for a reason, and like maybe that discord, maybe that struggle, maybe that is where the beauty is. And not the mastering of the emotions, but the mastering of your response regardless of the emotions. And this is why meditation has such an impact, because it allows us to just witness the state as opposed to rejecting it or immersing ourselves and getting carried away by it. Yeah, and yeah, it doesn't, I think it toned down the beauty of life for me. And that's a weird thing for it to do. It kind of like just like I don't know whether you've ever listened to like great classical pieces, like oh, who did the planets? But like each of those four pieces has a feeling, an emotional tone. Some of it's like dread, some of it's fear, and some of it's like these beautiful kind of movements. And you're just like, that's the contrast between those states is what makes life beautiful, and is what makes it worth living. Then if we come back to your original question, it's like, was that meaningful? Was that struggle actually meaningful for you? Was it important for you? Did it lead you to some more self-knowledge or a better way of acting? And maybe that's what the struggle is there for. Like maybe you're not supposed to be like standing like a cow in the rain with the rain pouring down your face, and you just stood there. Maybe you're meant to go, well, maybe I need to build a fucking shelter and get under it, or get out of this field, or move country. Like maybe that's what we need to do. Coming back to that, it's like, okay, action, change, like experiential density. That those kind of three come as a one almost. I was listening, like I was on this fucking crazy Karakoram highway with literally 1,000-foot drops off to one side, and like overtaking the wrong side of the road, and like I was listening to this podcast and we were about 24 hours into what was supposed to be an 8-hour journey, and just like continual stress. And I was like, okay, right, I'm just gonna listen to podcasts, I'm gonna tune out like these beautiful mountains, we're gonna listen to podcasts. And the podcast that came on was between Rick Rubin, the music producer, and Laird Hamilton, the big wave surfer. Laird Hamilton completely changed the face of surfing, like almost single-handedly. But he was one of these people who just he got people towing into big waves. He like strapped people's feet in. He changed like board shape. He did so many incredible things in the world of surfing. But his big point in that was like, it's not about getting inspired. It's about how do you stay inspired. And staying inspired is the key thing here, because if you get still in this meditation that we talked about before, inspiration comes. I don't know about you, if I settle, there's the energy is there ready to go, and we'll talk about that in a second. But like, it's there ready to go. It's about staying inspired. So how do you stay inspired consistently? Well, the way I found it is you use this thing called connection ports. And a connection port is like a thing that you can do that connects you to that good wolf, or that better version of you, into a meaningful life, into something that makes life worth living for you. So that could be as simple as grabbing guitar, playing a bit of guitar, like kind of reconnecting to that feeling you get from it. It could be a meal out, like probably walking for a lot of us, like just going out for a walk if we can, like getting outside, like kind of that seems to be a connection port for so many of us. It could be music, it could be so many things, like reading books, like, or it could be a big trip away. But we need to have these consistent things like built into our lives, because I know that if I sit down and actually play guitar for 15 minutes, I connect to something within me. There's a port that we can plug into. And if you're thinking about kind of continual growth, that's what we can be thinking about, like connecting, like building in these connection ports. And sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to plug into them, because we're like, I don't deserve them. I haven't done the thing. I need to sacrifice. Now it's time to sacrifice. But these small 5-minute blocks, 10-minute blocks, they allow us to connect to a better version of ourselves. And they're not just treats. It's not nihilism. Like nothing has any meaning. Like what's the fucking point? Or it's not hedonism. Like I'm just going to enjoy it. And it's like life's for just living. It's more about like, this is an act of self-love. This is something I'm going to do to plug into this moment. And that's really key for us. So that's the fourth point. Point 5. Again, this came out where I was like, altitude is a fucker. I don't know whether you guys have ever been like at real altitude, but like you get above 4,000 meters, none of your body heals. So any cuts you pick up, any blisters, it just stays like all open and raw. You get up to 5,000 meters. I had complete nausea. I lost like 4 or 5 kilos within the 2 weeks, or like probably the week period that I was there. You don't sleep properly because you don't breathe properly. You're in the shit state. Like I had a nosebleed for about 2 weeks. My nose is still bleeding from it, and like I was like, this fucking sucks. I had this trip in mind that I was like, I can't wait to do this. And like I was lying there, like can't sleep. Like I had to get up at 2 a.m. to go do this thing. I was like, this fucking sucks. Like this is an awful part of it. This is like realization of like, well, if you want something, you got to accept all of it. If you want the business, you've got to accept the sleepless nights. If you want the health and the kind of the physique or the athleticism, you got to accept the mundane nature of your nutrition and the training, the pain that comes with it, and the injuries that come up. Like I'm sitting here and I've just fucked my back at the gym, and it's like, well, this is something you accept. It's a risk, like the pain of the unknown. Like you've got to have all. You can't cherry pick the key parts of like things that make you happy. It comes wholesale, guys. So it's like all of that food, like inability to tolerate food, the nausea, the headaches, like the splitting headaches, the inability to sleep, that comes with it. And that's the same thing with your, like where you are in your business or whatever you're working on right now. It's like the stress of finances, which always comes with running a business, the kind of the self-doubt, the fear, that is all wholesale with whatever journey you're on. And that comes back to like the beauty of the symphony. It's like that is part of it. It's like, is that meaningful for you though? Or is that Is that something that's not meaningful for you, just expedient? And when it's meaningful, it's worth it. When you're just doing it to tick boxes, because that's what you should be doing, that's when you really struggle. That's point 5. And then last 2 points. The first one is like hardship. It doesn't reveal character in this, like it doesn't polish it. It's not like you're there ready to go. It's like we have this idea of like, oh, if I do hard things, then I will just naturally, like painting a mountain one layer of paint at a time. It will just build really gradually and it'll be kind of simple and it'll become tougher. It's not so much that hardship does that. I think it's more that it flays the skin off you and it exposes this raw, like vulnerable, exposed, delicate flesh underneath. And you look at that and you're like, oh, what the fuck do I do with that? It's like, it's painful. That's what real hardship does. And that's your negative emotion. The perfect you doesn't just like come out, but it's about callousing that layer and treating it. And maybe you've got to pour a bit of alcohol in there and it makes it sting. And maybe you got to look in there and extract the shit from the wound. But this is about like looking, you're going to get those painful raw moments. It's not a clean thing, is what I'm saying. It's going to be a wound, and it's about how you adapt to it. So this is about a kind of an introspection. It's going to be painful. It's going to be really uncomfortable. The perfect you isn't there. You have to build it, and it comes through callousing. So, final thing. I learned something massive about willpower. And I think this is the kind of the biggest thing. I was like chatting through it with a bunch of people on the hike in, one person in particular, and he was like, "Yes, this is fucking right." We like to think of us having willpower as like the willpower being the engine, the force. Like think about you're in a boat. It's not the engine driving us, but we like to think it's like, okay, I'm going to crank the engine, like turn it up to 1,000 and just like fucking hammer it. The reality is the energy is already there. If you sit still, you'll want to do something. So when you're lazy, you're still fucking doing stuff. You're still grabbing your phone. You're still doing whatever you want to be doing. You're not the engine, you're the tiller. You get to direct, the kind of the handle on the back of the boat that just directs very gently the direction you go in. Like you've got the energy there. So this isn't about laziness. This isn't about forcing. This is about you have the energy there already. And the way that you sail effectively, if any of you have ever done this, is like you don't jam the tiller around. You kind of roll with it a little bit. And the best sailors have the lightest touch. They're able to look a little bit into the distance and they very delicately just touch the tiller back and forth. So when you guys are thinking about like your willpower, your desire, I'm going to invite you to say, fuck the Goggins model of like just crush it and like aggression and self-hatred to get there, and more get still. Feel there's an energy in there already. Maybe it's a restlessness for you, but there's something. Maybe it's an anger for you. Maybe it's a creative love. Like maybe there's something in there though that has the energy already. And you will be propelled. The engine's already ticking over. You don't need to floor it any harder. You just need to grab the tiller very lightly and just adjust which direction it's going in. And for me, that meant like, okay, when I was really struggling, I was like, we're going for the 6,000 meter peak. We're going to be the first group of people to ever ski down this line. It was fucking brutal getting up there. You got crevasses everywhere. And these people were pulling away from me at the front. And I was like, I can't fucking do this. I had my head down, and like this is a point where you do a kick turn. So you basically like skis one way on the mountain, like heading uphill, and you kick your feet out and turn around. And, like the skis are weighing like 1 kilo each. You got your boots on, which are like another kilo each. And you think about like how much effort that would be down here. You go up there and like you're literally just hunched over, just like absolutely fucked at that point. Like one kick turn just destroys you. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I was thinking about this tiller analogy. It's like, I've got the energy already. It's going to take me energy to go down. It's like, well, I'm going to direct that at just moving the tip of my ski beyond the Black Crow logo on the other ski. And I'm just going to one at a time. It's like, you've got the energy there already, whether that is growing the business, whether that's posting on social media, whether that is reaching out to your clients, like it's there already. Like you don't need to create more energy. It's about directing it. And the more you do that, the stronger the engine gets because you're self-propelled. So I hope that was helpful.